Hi, and welcome to the Art Splash podcast, where we will have open and playful and also meaningful and thought-provoking conversations about art, creativity, life, and spirituality that will stimulate both your mind and soul and give you a chuckle at the same time. Hi, I'm Joy Fahey.
And I'm Eve Marie Whitsun-Jones.
And today we're going to be talking about the artist block.
Yes.
Something that happens to all of us at some point in time. But just before we dive in, it would be great if I could ask you a favor. If you would like our video and subscribe, that would be fantastic because it helps us share it to lots more people. So thank you.
Indeed, yes.
So, artist block. Whoa. And it seems to be a bit of a buzz going on at the moment about this. I've kind of been looking, and I got an email from somebody's list that I'm on, just as I was waiting to come onto the call. Gosh, that's what we're talking about.
Serendipity.
It is a little, but it can be quite debilitating if you get into that place in your mind where you feel completely stuck, and it's a strange place to be. And my feeling about it is when it happens to me, I have to do something completely different.
Right.
So that's sort of like the easiest way initially. So, go and do something else. In my case, I might take the dog for a walk, or go in the garden and do something in the garden with my plants or something, just to kind of change the anxiety feel. And what is it? That's what's kind of quite interesting. Why do we get into that space?
Yeah.
And my understanding of it is, and it's to do with what we've been talking about on our other programs, is it's the difference between our linear side, which I call the left side,
yes,
and the right side of our brain. That we can just get caught up in thinking. And unfortunately, when it comes to the block, it's kind of negative thinking.
Right.
That I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to start. I haven't got a beginning. I haven't got an idea. All those sort of negative thoughts that can bombard our brain.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If we're not careful. And as the same thing with creativity, when we've talked about creativity last time, that if you're too in the linear thinking, it's very hard to access that natural flow. And it's interesting because I've been reading a book by John Cleese, the comedian. I don't know.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
And he's written a book on creativity. It's only very short, but he talks about this also, that, sometimes you just get so frustrated and you don't know what else to do. And in his case, writing and, things that he's involved with. In my case, art, your case, art.
Yes.
But it applies to anything really that you might be doing creatively that you get stuck with.
Yeah, of course. Just artist block.
And in one of the things he was talking about, sometimes if you just relax, do something else, go to bed, get up in the morning, suddenly something new arrives.
Yes.
And I think one has to go with that flow. And on my occasions, that does happen quite often. I just think I can't do any more to this. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm just going to stop.
Yeah, I think you have to remove the resistance, because it's just it's a natural part of your brain, the way it works, and it's actually kind of telling you okay, I've had enough now. I need to stop and I need to, digest and reset and, come back to it with maybe, as you say, fresh eyes
Yeah,
later
exactly.
on. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then the other thing that I think is kind of quite interesting is giving yourself different prompts.
Mm,
If you don't know where to start with a prompt,
yes,
start with something. And, again, for me, I can only really speak from my own experience. If I'm out and about, and especially, my dog walking is my meditation time in many respects.
yes,
And I,
yes,
I take a lot of photographs, and I really enjoy that. And then I can use those as prompts. Not that I'm going to copy the photograph, but I can just use it as a starting point. So maybe, looking at the shapes, if I've
right.
taken them of the landscape or of certain things, what shape is there? So I would start with that shape,
Yes, yes,
and that starts the ball rolling. It,
right.
it
Yeah,
starts kind of oiling the wheels.
yes, yeah. I think you need to
um,
give yourself different inputs, visually, even auditory, just to kind of change the senses
yeah,
or give you a different,
exactly.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, and music always is very helpful for me. I'm just looking at myself in the camera here. I've got all these light things. So because I'm outside, it's so
Yeah,
hot in the house and it's a
yeah.
little bit cooler out here. Music is also really helpful.
It's funny, isn't it,
Um,
about music? Some people can't work with music on. It really disturbs them and distracts them, whereas I love having music on in the
oh,
background.
I do too. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yes.
And I also have a lot of podcasts on when I'm working and listening, and that keeps that left side of the brain occupied
To a certain
while
extent. Yes.
while the creative side is just kind of getting on with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but I do think a lot of people struggle with it, and it's a shame, really,
Yeah.
that
I do
we
think
get into such a mess.
it's important not to resist it. And I think that because it is a natural part of
Mm.
your brain and your even it's part of a natural part of your creativity, your process.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think you're right by when you say, I think that's the point where your brain is telling you that's enough for the
yes.
time being.
Right.
Come back to it. What's the rush?
Yes.
And um, in my newest course that I'm doing at the moment, that I'm making, and I'm addressing my process, and my process is really, I guess, quite slow, because I do take my time. I'll do some, and
Mm-hmm.
then I work in a series usually, and then I'll go on to something else. And then when I've had enough, I've had enough. It
Right.
might be half an hour, it might be, a day. That it doesn't matter, because when I come back to it, I'm coming back 100%.
Right. Yes.
But saying that, I also am a believer that you start something. Even if I don't go back to that project, I'll go and do something else.
Yes. Yeah. That's my
And
problem is that I start lots of things, but I don't finish them.
well, I guess I guess we're all like that, really. But I
Yeah.
think it depends if you've set yourself an intention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the moment, my intention is I'm having an exhibition in October, which is a few months away.
Oh, right.
So the intention, and I know what the series is. So my intention is to have,
Yes.
well, I actually want 20 paintings for that.
20. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm in quite a big space.
Okay.
Well, between 15 and 20, as long as I've got up to 15, it's okay. So I've got a very clear intention about what I'm doing with that and what the
Mm.
theme is.
Yes.
And in that process, I can get to a place in a painting like I don't know what else to do at the moment. So I'm going to leave it and
Yes.
wait.
Yeah.
And then I can do some other things. So I'll do some drawings, I'll do some other little sketches, I'll play around with colors,
Mm-hmm.
uh, clean the studio.
Yeah. 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 Discover
um,
old things that you've forgotten
yeah,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just kind of let my brain cool down.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in the heat
Or
that you're
reboot
working in.
itself. That would be better.
Yeah, yeah.
um, and I think you know, what you do with your Zentangles and mandalas and those kind of things, those are wonderfully meditatory and interesting to do if you want to do something that's different.
Well, the thing that I really like about them as well is that, I mean, unlike painting, which in a sense you have to prepare yourself for, you've got to get the paints out, and the water and the brushes and everything. And, I mean, I'm sure that in your case and people who have the opportunity or the space to have a studio where you can just leave everything, and not have
Yeah,
to put it away, whereas other people may not have that luxury. But with something like, Zentangle or just drawing, all you need is a pen and a piece of paper. So you don't need a lot of setup time, and you can just leave it and go back to it. Sometimes I just go back and do 5 minutes or 10
yeah,
minutes, and then I go back off and I, do something different. So it's a quick sort of, go in, do a bit, go out, and then you feel
yeah,
like you've done something, and it's very
exactly.
inspiring. Yeah,
And I really think that's important, to be doing something as often as you can
right.
with the space that you have. I mean, yes, I do have, I have a spare room in my house, and that's my studio. Um, I'd like it to be the whole house, but there you go. um, um, so I'm in a better position where I can just go and do things.
Yes,
And I do understand it can be a bit frustrating if you just got a space on the kitchen table or the
right.
dining room table, or a little place in your bedroom or somewhere, and you have to get everything out, put everything back. But then there's so many wonderful things now with all colored pencils, the watercolor pencils, and that
Yes.
you can do things and play around in a very small space. And actually, it reminds me, I did an exhibition last year, and I had to be there every day from 10 o'clock till 6, which I'm not used to,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
any stretch of the imagination. And I had to be there. And I thought, well, I can't just sit here twiddling my thumbs. Okay, it's lovely when people come in and you can talk, and, but the spaces when people don't come in, then I've got to
Yes.
do something. So I got myself a little set of inks,
Oh,
and I had a brilliant time. I did a whole sketchbook of just messing around with the inks and finding out what they would, because I don't use inks very often.
right.
And I could just put it all in a little bag, and I had a nice sketchbook and a few bits and pieces. I took some brushes and this and that and the other, and a couple of jars for water. And I had a great time. I did some really interesting things.
No, lovely. Yeah. Why not?
So
Yeah.
and you could do that with watercolor pencils. You could do it with sharpies. You could do it with all kinds of things.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the space and you haven't necessarily got a theme that you're working towards,
Right.
you just want to be doing some fun things and being creative. That's a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I actually have a very small little watercolor kit. It's got about
Yeah.
10 or 12 little pots in it, different colors. And
Hmm.
so I carry that around with me. And I have another little book, watercolor, sort of a journal,
Yeah.
and a few brushes. And so quite easily I can just,
You can.
get a little
Yeah.
pot of water and just doodle and do
And just do
anything.
things.
Yeah.
And actually, what comes into my mind was, oh, this is years and years ago. When I first started painting, I was into watercolors, and I was, still am, but a big fan of William Turner.
Yes.
And he used to go off on trips all over Europe, to Italy and Switzerland, and all over the place. And he used to just have a tiny little sketchbook
Hmm.
and a few watercolors,
Yes.
and that was it. And I had the very good fortune. I don't know how it came about. I can't remember, but he has all, in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and I
Yes.
was living in London at the time. Um, in their archives, they've got all these big drawers,
Oh yeah.
with all the sketchbooks that they managed to get of Turner's.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how, but anyway, I was invited to go and have a look at these books, which was really a special deal. And you went in, it was all terribly proper, and you had to put these white
Gloves.
silk gloves on.
Yes.
But I was astounded because literally, they're this big,
Oh, really?
that big, and the perspective in them with a few lines of paint.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just fantastic. And then obviously when he'd done his tour and whatever, he would then go and to his studio and then do his paintings. But the things that you can do on a very small little pad,
Surface. Yes,
it's
exactly.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I remember that story because it was such a special thing to do, to be actually touching the book that he'd
Oh.
taken up a mountain in Switzerland or something. It was
Yeah.
really exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
There's something nice about working in a small space as well. I mean, I guess you get this different sense of, it's not as intimidating as working on a big canvas,
big canvas, yeah.
right? And you've got this little tiny, card sized piece of paper or whatever it is. And
Mm.
you don't feel like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You can just kind of let yourself go. And I think that that's a really great opportunity to
That's a
use.
nice thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can unblock yourself more easily, perhaps, than being faced with this big white board in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have a course actually on how to get unstuck.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And one of the suggestions that I make in there, which I to this day find really helpful and I use it myself, is that if you get to a space in a painting and then you just, what do I do now?
Mm-hmm.
I take photographs of it, and
Right.
I have a printer, so I'll print them off, and then I'll play with the photographs and
Okay.
and experiment with different things that I could do, and that loosens me up. So when I actually come to do the canvas, back to the canvas,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not feeling so much trepidation. And then I ask myself, well, why are you feeling so much trepidation? Because there's this crazy idea that you'll spoil it.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, and then you think, well, where does that come from? Because it's just going to develop.
Right.
So this challenge of dealing with the judgment part of our brain
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that comes up with all these very peculiar perceptions of what it should, must, and ought to be, and what we're frightened of doing.
Yeah. I think it has to do with,
It's mad.
I think some of us may feel like, by the time you've reached a point in your painting where you really, really like it, or there's a particular part of it that you really like, and you don't want to mess it up, right? You want to leave it, but you feel like you've got to keep going. You can't just stop there. You've got to keep going because the rest of it still needs work. So I don't know. There's this real sense of resistance about continuing on top of or around or whatever to
Mm.
potentially overwork something also, that concept of overworking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, you can take a photograph of it
Right, right. Yes.
and you could do something with the photograph. Who knows?
Maybe use it as a collage paper or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. All the bits that you like.
That's right. That's right.
Cut out all
Exactly.
the bits you don't and then just use the
Cover
bits
over
you
the ones you
do.
do. Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a great
Uh,
exercise though, isn't it?
really, it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I feel that to give oneself the space, I think it's probably different when you're writing, if you're
Yes.
writing a piece and then you get stuck. But I would think that the same principle applies. You have to let something go because if it
Yeah,
gets so blocked in your thinking, you can't access the flow.
that's
That
right.
resistance
Yeah.
just stops you at
Yeah.
every end of term. And, maybe that does take a day. Maybe it might take a week. But is that a block or is it something else?
Well, I mean, there definitely is a known process within the brain of the subconscious working on a problem without you realizing it, in a sense, just like
Yeah,
we were saying the other time about, when you're trying to find something and you don't know where it is. And then, the next morning you wake up and you
you go
instantly
straight to
know,
it.
yeah, you go
Yeah,
straight to it. So it's giving your mind, your subconscious, a chance to solve the problem, which in itself is a creative process, I would say.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you carry on, so you do, like, it is that blank space concept that I was talking about the other day, which is
Mm,
give yourself a timeout and let your brain do the rest, let your subconscious
mm,
work on it. And then
yeah,
you'll keep able, it'll come back to the front of your brain in a certain way and you can carry on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we're very hampered by um, these strange rules that we have kind of been, what would you call, brainwashed into thinking
Yes. Yes.
that we need a result and it needs to be great and it needs to be this and that and the other. And um, I think that goes for anything that we
Yeah.
do that's creative in any way, or even in business. It doesn't actually really matter. You can get stuck on a problem and not know what to do, whatever it might be.
There's a lot of pressure to please, isn't there? I think that you're doing it for yourself, but at the same time, you want to make sure that someone else who looks at it is going to like it, is going to enjoy it as much as you. And how
Yeah,
does
but
that
that
come
but
into
that's
play?
never ever going to happen because some
Yeah.
people are going to think it's fantastic, and some people are going to think it's absolutely awful. But who cares?
Right, right,
you know,
exactly. Yeah,
I think that's the problem, that we've got these ideas that everyone's got to go, oh, isn't that beautiful? And then someone said, oh, I really don't like that. I mean, it's the difference between people liking abstract painting and like realistic painting.
true. Yes.
Someone's into beautiful classical landscapes and you give them an abstract painting for Christmas, they're not going to like
No,
it.
no, no, exactly.
Probably not.
Yeah,
And some of the things that people have said to me who don't like abstracts or don't even like abstract landscapes,
right.
what's that supposed to be? It
Mm,
it can be very damning if you're
yes,
very identified with it being something that you want everybody to like.
true. Yeah.
um so it's a real process of just letting go and actually creating. And who was it? Someone was saying to me, oh, actually, I think it was you, when
Maybe.
we were chatting on the
Yeah.
phone yesterday, about scribbling and some
Oh, yes.
crazy stuff.
Yes.
But you look at some of the masters' scribbles, and Picasso comes into mind.
Right.
And he used to do so many. Okay, they're interesting, they're fantastic. He used to do scribbles on napkins in restaurants and things. I mean, really childlike,
Yeah.
stick men.
Stick figures. Yes. Right.
Yeah, and you put them in Bonhams or Christie's now, and sell them for thousands of pounds or dollars or euros or whatever,
Well, only
um,
because he scribbled it and no one
because
else.
he
Yeah.
scribbled it. So,
Yeah.
but what's the difference between him scribbling something and you scribbling something, or me, or
Well,
anybody else?
that's a
It's an
whole different
emotion, isn't
discussion.
it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, this is the whole art world and how it values
Mm,
works from this person versus that person. And
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, when you look at some of I love that series of the Black series where it's just black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, there's an emotion attached to that. And
Yes.
it's obviously got a valid space in the art field, but you wouldn't say I was a great artist if I just painted it black.
Well, if your
Or
name was Picasso, maybe you would.
exactly. So the whole thing is a perception
It is, yeah.
and a kind of a marketing trick of, I do remember that. Don't know what this has got to do with artist block, but I think it's interesting. Do you remember that thing where there were pet rocks
Oh, yes.
and people were buying these pet rocks? I mean, how ludicrous is that?
I know.
But
I know.
they did such a brilliant marketing thing on it. They made it a buzz. Oh, have you got a pet rock?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
you know,
It's what they say. It's like selling ice to the Eskimos, even though
you
we don't
must,
call them Eskimos anymore. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Yeah, I know.
interesting.
Yeah.
But I think coming back to the point of getting through a block, um, of doing something,
Hmm.
not necessarily to do with what you're blocked on.
Yeah, right.
Um, just do something else that inspires you. You know, cooking
Yeah,
could be anything.
right.
Sewing, knitting, whatever it might be. Just do something that takes you out of the resistance space of that thing and into the flow of us of another thing that you can feel good about, and then that naturally comes back.
Yeah, and I think having a different mindset about the block, whatever, it's called a block and it has a negative connotation, doesn't it?
Mm,
You're seeing it as something that's preventing you from doing something. But I think if we think of it differently, not as a block, but as a pause or something that is a positive thing. It's a thing that you need to do to let to let whatever it needs to happen inside of your head happen for you then to
mm,
be able to continue. And it's just a natural thing that you don't have to fight about or fight against. And you can even welcome it and say, oh, okay, this is now not my time to stop. And I'm going to go and do
yeah.
something else. And just realize that it's part of the process, and let it happen and think about it in a positive way. I think it just changes the whole
Mm,
sort of feeling about it, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's it doesn't sound particularly helpful, but in a funny kind of way, I feel the tendency is for some people to use it as an excuse
Ah, right. Yes. Yeah.
not to do something,
Yes.
you know. And I've got artist block, so I'm not doing anything. It's flippant, and
Yes.
it's not really. It's just I haven't put myself in the right frame of mind to do anything, even if I wanted to. You know what I
Yeah. I
mean?
mean, it's another word for procrastination, perhaps.
Well, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would do if I could,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
but I can't, so
It's
I'm not
like,
going to. It's the brain having a bit of a tantrum, really, I think.
yeah. Yeah, I know about tantrums. I just spent the day with my 2-year-old grandson, and he's perfecting that art of tantrum.
Oh my goodness. Does he go on the naughty step?
Oh, not yet, but yes, that's coming. Yeah.
That's coming. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
There's
yeah, so
definitely a
I
block there, as a parent, the block of how to deal with it is becomes very real because then you're sort of stuck. You don't know how to get past it. But, again, I think it's just something that you need to just let it happen and work through it and find a distraction, even, for a child.
absolutely. um Super Nanny. That's what
Oh,
your
yes,
daughter needs to be watching.
that's
She's
right.
brilliant. I love that woman.
Yeah.
Joe, I can't remember her surname, but she's really great.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
And she comes up with some fantastically creative things
Mm-hmm.
to help with that, help, with difficult children.
You're right.
And really that one could use with creating lots of different interesting things.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes you need an outside perspective. You
Mm,
get lost in the forest. You can't see the trees anymore because you're right
yeah.
in the thing, and you need to get yourself out of it. Just as we were saying before, go for a
Mm,
walk or do something different. And it's all about changing your perspective.
yeah, changing
Yeah,
the focus.
right.
And I think it applies to everything.
It
in
does.
any anything really, and particularly emotional
Mm-hmm.
challenges that we might have. You
Yes.
know, we can just get lost in the story of it and forget the perspective.
Right.
Um, and I think we've now got so much more access to getting help with that, even self-help. You
Yes.
know, okay, it's always good to talk to somebody about it for sure, but there's so many tools and things. I mean, YouTube, for example,
Oh gosh,
is
yeah.
brilliant
Yeah.
for you know, addressing any challenge that we might have of, you know, different ways of looking at it and thinking about it, and therefore changing
Right.
our idea or our focus. It's all, I think that's the main thing, is changing the focus.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know, I think what I can't remember. Oh yeah, I do. Um, if I say to you, for example, just focus on anything around you that's red,
Oh yes. Okay.
right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So you're just going to pick up around you red. And then I say, okay, now pick up anything that's green.
Right. Yeah.
Your focus goes immediately
There's something
from red
different.
to green
That's
without
right.
even a second thought, just
Yeah.
shifts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got the problem, because we're so focused on the problem, we're
Right.
not giving ourselves the opportunity to, if I say, okay, we're focused on the problem, now let's focus on something completely different. What color is the sky?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what? It's like, um, what does Anthony Robbins call it? A paradigm shift.
Yes.
You kind
Yes.
of interfere with the thought because
Yeah.
it's so random. You know, well, what's that got to do with my problem? Well, immediately the focus has gone from, oh, my life is terrible, blah, blah. What color's the sky? What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well,
What does that
anything, you
matter? Yeah.
know.
All these things are wonderful tips and tricks, and in your course as well. I'm sure you've got lots of other ideas about how to kind of work your way out of it.
For sure. I
Yeah.
mean, with you know, free drawing, doing all kinds of little interesting, you know, things that you
Yeah.
wouldn't normally do necessarily for a painting, but you can just play and experiment and have fun exploring new possibilities.
Yeah.
And in fact, even today myself, because I'm doing this series, in order to get me, sorry, can you hear the crickets? They're making a real noise. I'm outside.
No, I don't.
To get myself in the right space this morning, I did myself in my sketchbook a grid with six um, six blocks,
Yeah.
and I was just doing free drawing in all of them, but with different pens.
Okay.
Totally alien to what I'm actually doing in the series,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I just wanted to feel
Do something different.
right
Yeah.
before I actually started. And I looked at the painting that I've been working on, and yesterday I thought it was okay, and
Yeah.
then I looked at it today and thought, it's absolutely not okay, or it's okay, but it's not how I want it to be. And I worked on it for at least another 2 hours, and it's transformed itself.
Oh,
But
lovely.
I
Yeah.
couldn't have done that yesterday.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
I went through a process. So, yeah, interesting. I think one of the other interesting things is that we get the tendency is to get identified with the word, with the names.
The
So
name.
you kind of buy into block,
Oh, yes.
okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
or you know, I can't do it anymore.
Right. The
So
negative talk. Yeah.
the negative words,
Right.
whereas um, I'm finding that I can't do any more to it at the moment
Yet. Remember that famous word
yet.
we love? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So you instead of feeding your mind with the overload on negative,
Right.
you change the
Yes,
words on it,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
that makes a difference to our emotional state, which makes a difference to our focus, which makes a difference to the whole thing.
Yes.
I think as soon as we start defining it negatively, then you know we lead ourselves down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, imagine how you
Whereas,
would feel if when you started feeling that you were getting in, getting to that point where you didn't know what to do next. Imagine if you changed that to, oh, good, this is great. Now I get to stop.
yes.
And do something different. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think that's totally right, and that applies to everything. It's across the board with
Exactly.
everything, with
Yeah.
any challenge that we've got.
Yeah.
You know, we all tend to feed into the negative story if we're not careful,
Yes.
and then that takes us down that road, which takes us down another road, and suddenly you're in the complete doldrums.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and that applies to everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting to say, okay, well, that's how I feel at the moment, but it's inevitable that it'll change. It'll never stay, never, nothing ever stays
Well,
the
this
same.
too shall pass. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorite sayings because nothing ever stays the same, good
same.
or
No.
bad,
Mm,
one way or the other. Yeah, you just have to
yeah,
enjoy the moment that you're in. That's sort of the
yeah.
ultimate sort of, isn't it? Is to really just be where you are at that moment in time, no matter what it is, and then accept
Mm,
the next moment, whatever it brings. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And I do feel that, talking about it is really good if you've got
Yes,
someone to talk to and
yes.
say who will someone who's positive, not somebody that just says, oh well, life sucks, never mind.
Too bad.
you
Yeah,
know
so sad.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
rather
Get
than
on with it.
yes.
Little Jordan Peterson, maybe, right?
Yes, exactly. You'll stand up, put your shoulders back.
Yeah. Go make
And
your
if you don't
bed.
know who we're talking about, go
Yeah.
and visit Jordan Peterson. He'll soon get you out of any rut that you're in.
Well, yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
brilliant.
I think the community, the AC community that we've got going is also a wonderful space for us to,
Yeah,
interact and get feedback from our fellow, want to be artists
yeah,
and get some ideas from them or some encouragement or whatever. And I think that
yeah,
we've too often, I think this is another aspect of being in that space of not knowing what to do, is being by yourself. You're working there almost always, aren't you, in your own studio by yourself.
mm.
And this is another really wonderful opportunity for the retreat as well, is to have everybody, in one space together.
Base, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. But the well, it's called the Artist Connection
right.
membership group that we have, and it's gathering momentum. There's a free trial that um, you can come and see if you like it. There's lots of master classes in there and resources, and we have a private Facebook group where we can share our paintings and um, discuss things as live Q&A and different challenges.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
it's a really we haven't started it very long ago, but it's now beginning to build momentum, and it's nice that you can come and try it for free.
I think it's great.
Um,
Yeah.
and then also the free mini course that I've got, and I get some great. I just had a lovely email from somebody today saying, oh, they're so pleased that they've found that because it's just what they wanted.
Oh,
And that's
wonderful.
also kind of, it's a nice feeling that you can do something that somebody's going to enjoy, and to suck it, to try it and see,
Yes. Yes.
if you like it. And if you like it, then great, you can carry on. And if you don't, then at least
You've tried.
you've tried and you've said, okay, that's for me or that's not for me. And so yeah, I'm good. I'm pleased about that. And yeah, the retreat.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be great to
Well,
actually work together in a group, which is a completely different dynamic than working, online.
yeah.
And I think there'll be a lot of interesting things going on with that. I'm really excited about it.
Yes. Yes. Me
So all
too.
this information that we're talking about, the links will be below. So if you want to go and check them all out, then you can go and have a see if there's anything there that you resonate with that you'd like to get involved with.
Yes, good
So
idea. Yeah.
cool. And your information for your Facebook is in there, your Facebook page?
Yeah, my Facebook page is there. And very soon, hopefully, I've been waiting for it, but I'm going to have my website up and running very soon, where I'll have a lot more information about sort of the neuroscience and creativity and how they work together. And, I'll be doing some more YouTube videos as well on different types of, art therapy type exercises for helping people, not just with creativity, but just in general. I think, as we were saying, all these things apply to not just artwork or anything. It applies to everything in life. And I think it's so important for us to try to learn, how to deal with, our challenges in life using creative solutions, and not just, finding ways to do problem solving in lots of different and innovative ways that we don't really often acknowledge that we have the ability to do, right? So
absolutely, totally. That you can start to feel, if you're not feeling good about whatever it is, there are tools and tricks that you can play on your mind.
That's right.
You can play, use the trick to trick your brain out of thinking the things that you don't want to be thinking about.
Sounds evil, doesn't it? Yeah.
You've got your own magician going on.
Absolutely. You're very right. That's very true.
Yeah. I mean, and it works most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, you have to have a whole bag of tricks, don't you? It's not just
one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the other one that I think is, so obvious, and I'm a great fan of Esther Hicks, Abraham.
Oh, yes.
I've been following her for years and years, and she's brilliant. And she says, if all else fails, just go to bed.
There you are.
Just go and sleep.
Just go sleep.
Because inevitably when you wake up, you're going to feel differently.
That's right.
So if all else fails, you get stuck, go to bed.
Lovely.
So but it's good to have just to know that you can change the focus. I think if there's a takeout from any of this, it's giving yourself the thought that you can change the focus by doing something different. And slowly but surely the other thing will come back. And writing about it, if you write, I do quite a bit of journaling, writing down the things that you feel frustrated with, that are you feel anxious about, and you'll find that actually when you're writing, the solutions start to rise.
Yes.
And you start thinking, okay, you start thinking differently about it. Why am I feeling blocked? Why am I feeling resistance? And it's like putting that question into Google.
Yes.
Your brain will come up with something that you probably never even dreamed of thinking about.
Well, I think one of the most important aspects of that exercise is to even be aware of the fact that you're feeling blocked. Some people are not even conscious of that they're in that state, if you like, and there's a lot of that. I think that's the first step in any kind of self-development exercise, is to develop this sense of self-awareness and this sense of, I am feeling this way right now. And then you can start questioning, either through journaling or some other exercise, what's going on, what's making me feel like that.
And then going back to the word thing, to be defining it with different words so you don't get so stuck in the word, is to be saying something like, I'm tending to feel really blocked, or I'm tending to feel really pissed off about this, or whatever it might be, or extremely annoyed about blah blah blah. But in the tendency, giving yourself a bit of space to say, I could tend to feel good if I wanted to.
And I think also, along the lines of language, is using the words of I am versus kind of separating who you are. Like some people like to say, I am sad, I am depressed, I am this, I am that. But instead of saying that, say, I feel right now, you know, at the moment, this is how I feel. So you're sort of separating the emotion from who you are as a person, you know, your sort of self-identity. And that gives you a bit of that space, you know, that sort of ability to be a little bit more objective about your situation at the moment. You know, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling sad, as opposed to I am angry, because you don't identify with it as much, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I found kind of really interesting, we were talking about Mo
Goddard.
Yes. Goddard.
Yes.
And he talked about something which I used to it used to be very much in the forefront of my mind, and he reignited it with my thinking, is this true? Is it true?
Yes, right.
So because a lot of the time, you know, all this garbage that's going on in our mind,
it's true.
Just garbage. It's not true.
Right.
So is this true?
Yeah.
And I find that really helpful too.
Yes.
Is it true that I'm really blocked? Or is it such that at the moment I just don't see the way forward yet?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So is it true that you'll be blocked forever? No.
No, exactly. Yeah, I know. It might feel that way right at the moment, but no, it isn't. Yes, exactly.
So I love that idea. And then the other thing that he was saying about everything is, am I liking this or am I disliking it?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're disliking it, then you get the resistance. So you could say, I'm liking the dislike because I'm learning something from it. That's what I'm saying. You become a magician. You juggle things around.
Yeah, you just have to switch the perspective, as you say.
And put the right light switch on rather than put everything into darkness and doom and gloom.
I know. And I hear people talking about themselves, you know, very often in these negative terms. And I just want to stop them and say, please don't say that about yourself. You know, say it differently if you can. To allow yourself that time to open up the possibility that you're not, you know, that it's not really who you are. It's who you might be feeling or how you might be seeing this particular period in your life or this particular event or something. But it's all going to change, you know, and just keep your mind open to what are you going to learn from this? You know, again, switch it around, you know, look at it as an opportunity to learn something.
Exactly. What can I take from this? What positive aspect is there in it?
Right, exactly.
And I think that also just changes, you know, if you're angry or if you're upset or if you're frustrated, what's positive about it? When you wouldn't necessarily put those two words together, but actually, what is positive about it? And finally, have we got time? I don't know, to just tell you a funny story.
Yes.
This is a while ago. I was due to go to a meeting. I can't even remember what it was for. And I was in the car and it was pouring with rain. And I had a problem I got a flat tire.
Oh.
And I'm sitting there in the pouring rain, not being able to get to this meeting, wondering what to do. And I thought, this is crazy. Then I remembered at the time, because that's why I remember it now, thinking, well, what's the positive aspect of this?
Oh, wow. Well done. Okay.
Well, I didn't really want to go to that meeting anyway.
Well, there you are.
So something had happened to stop me from actually getting there. And how did something really weird happened. Somebody came and knocked on my car window, and in the rain I wound it down, and it was somebody that I knew that I hadn't seen for years.
Oh.
I didn't even know was in Spain.
Yeah.
And they knocked on the window to see if they could help, and then realized when I put the window down that we knew each other. Oh my God, what are you doing here? Whoa, 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 whoa. Anyway, so he helped me sort the car out. We went for a coffee and we reconnected.
That's
So it
lovely.
was kind of how that synchronicity works when
That's
you think
right.
something is absolutely terrible, and I'm going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then as
Yeah.
soon as you accept it and say, what's the positive aspect of this?
Then someone
The
comes knocking on
universe
your
is
window.
amazing. It kind of
Yeah.
comes. So
That's
yeah, I remember
fantastic.
that really well.
Yeah. Lovely. All
So,
right. Well,
what's the
maybe we
positive aspect of listening to our conversation?
well, hopefully somebody picks up on something that they didn't think of
Yeah,
before. That would be lovely. And we'd love to hear comments from anyone who, might have some other ideas or
yeah,
something that we've
exactly.
said that, really
Yeah.
resonates with you. So please give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you've had any positive aspect, amazing situations, let us know.
Yeah, yeah, that's great.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm going to
Joy.
go and refocus on my painting now
Good, lovely.
and get that happening. So yeah, great conversation. Thank you, Eve. All our stuff is in the description
Yeah.
below.
All right, good.
And our next podcast every Monday it is, isn't it? They come
Yes,
out now.
that's right.
So the next one next week, and we'll have another interesting conversation to
Yes, we
discuss.
will, definitely. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
brilliant.
Joy. Have a lovely
All
rest of
right,
your
lots of
day.
love. Take
Okay.
care. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you.